Apparently, mass banning all of the conservatives is not a great way to run an open source project. Who knew? As the openSUSE Linux project is now finding out. As the Lunduke Journal reported back in December, openSUSE, which is one of the oldest Linux distributions still in existence, they had been spending, I don't know, about 2 years just doing these mass bannings of anyone with even the slightest whiff of conservative values, right? Just mass bannings. They banned me, and I used to sit on their board of directors. They banned anyone who even just suggested that they weren't an extreme leftist, right? Well, then they held their elections, their regular elections. They have a 6-person board of directors. And every election cycle, they have 3 seats that come up for re-election. Now, the elections are open to anyone who is a registered member of the openSUSE community. Well, unfortunately, now they have banned anyone who is conservative within the openSUSE community, so none of those people were able to run. So as of December 17th, my last reporting on this, they had delayed their elections because no one was willing to run. They didn't have any candidates to actually run an election. This was relatively funny. Actually, that started on December 2nd when they announced that they just didn't have candidates. So what they decided to do was they were going to kick the can down the road a ways. They said, you know what, we'll give it a month. We'll kick it down the road. We got some, or they give it 2 more weeks, I guess. 2 more weeks to get more people coming in and saying, yeah, you know what, I'll run for the election. It wasn't just that they had nobody to run unopposed. They had nobody to run at all. There wasn't just like one guy who was like, yeah, I'll do it. Because if one dude stood up and said, all right, there we go, he's in, because there's no one running against him. There wasn't. Well, no one stood up. They pleaded. They begged people, please get involved. One of the vice presidents from SUSE made this big announcement on the mailing list, like, please get involved. If you think you can do it, do it. We need people to run for the board. No, everyone was like, yeah, I'm not touching that with a 10-foot pole. That thing is radioactive. I'm not going to be on the openSUSE board. So on January 3rd, 3 days ago, this was, I think, last Friday, they announced that they're going to go ahead and delay it again because through the entire month of December, no one stood up. Quote, we did not conduct board election in December as initially scheduled, meaning that was they'd already postponed it to that point, since we did not receive enough of candidates required to run the election. Therefore, we are extending the nominations and applications phase by 2 weeks starting today. Okay, so the new schedule here is that all the candidates have to have said, please, I'll run. And all they literally have to do is like hop on an email thing on the mailing list and say, okay, I'll do it. They have to announce it by January 18th. Over the last 3 days, guess how many people have said, you know what, sure, I'll run. Yeah, 0. Not one. No one wants to touch this thing. No one wants to at all. And I think this is a great example. This is a great example of what happens to a community, a company, an open source project, a foundation that begins to kick people out and segregate people and discriminate against people in these hard woke ways, right? We've seen this over and over again in the open source world in particular, where it's, NixOS and so many others conduct purges. The NixOS people, another Linux distribution, they actually called it a purge. I mean, if it doesn't get more creepy than that, holy heavens. They conducted a purge of people that they didn't like. People who were not conservative, who were not left, people who were too conservative got purged. When that happens, the whole organization starts to crumble, because not only at that point are there no more conservatives left to contribute. And if you look back at the history of computing and open source, people who were very libertarian-y in views made a significant contribution over the years to open source ideas, open source licensing, and open source projects in general. And so you take them out of the equation, that's a significant chunk of the contributors that are no longer able to contribute to a project, either governing it, running it, just programming for it, whatever. But it goes so much further than that, because people who are simply non-political, people who are centrist, people who are left-leaning but not that extreme left woke, they're not going to feel comfortable sticking their neck out anymore, right? Because if they make the mistake of running for a seat on the openSUSE board, for example, well, they're going to get attacked. They know they're going to get attacked because the only people that are left in power over there, like so many different Linux organizations, are these extremists on the woke side of things. And they know that if someone who is centrist or left-leaning, but not extremist left-leaning, if they come out and say, yeah, I'll help run it. I think this technical project, this piece of software should focus on making great software and doing a good job and making sure anyone can come and contribute to this software, and let's do great. But if they don't come out and praise and put an offering on the altar of extreme wokeism, they're going to get attacked. I've seen it time and time again, all throughout last year, all throughout 2024. So many of these projects just went after people who were not overly political, who were just saying, hey, I want to make a piece of software. I don't want to be political about this stuff. And this is a problem, because now people on the right aren't going to be contributing. People who are centrist aren't going to be contributing. And people who are leftists, but not that extreme fringe, crazy woke left, they're not going to be contributing either. Now, so most people, I'd say 90+% of people, are now going to be ostracized. They're either going to be purposefully left out and not allowed to be involved, or they're going to be terrified of being involved because there's no benefit. They're just going to get attacked because they tried to get involved. And this is where we're heading. And this is one of the reasons why the Lunduke Journal is covering this topic so heavily. It's not because people need to agree with my politics. I don't care if I'm the only person on earth with my politics. I don't need to convince you of my politics. But the issue here, from the perspective of quality of software, the IT industry, the software, computing, the whole of it, is the dramatic impact this is having on all of it, right? On people's ability to be involved, on the quality of the software, and in some cases, the mere existence of the projects themselves. Now, I have my own personal politics, yada, yada, yada. I'm sure you do too. And we can always talk about those things. But the focus here, I really want to make this clear. With openSUSE and so many others, their discrimination, their extreme woke discrimination, is destroying their project, and it's causing immense harm to the majority, the vast majority of people who would otherwise want to contribute to it in ways that could benefit the project, the users of the software, and their own careers. But because of the route that the openSUSE leadership and the SUSE leadership, and much like NixOS and so many other projects out there, have gone down, the pro-extreme woke, the anti-conservative, the anti-centrist, even the anti-little bit left, right? It's so damaging. It's so utterly destructive, and it dramatically impacts the world of computing. And I just can't put up with that. But here we go. I feel like this is a great example. If you are out there and you are involved or running a software project, take a look at what is happening with openSUSE. Take a look at the road they went down and where it led, because it's nowhere good. And there's a lot of projects going down this exact same road. Now we'll see. They've got about 12 days, 12 more days to find 3 board candidates. Will they find them? Probably not. I mean, they didn't throughout November. They begged and pleaded with people, including corporate pleas from the vice president over at SUSE. Nobody throughout all of December. And here we are at January 6th after yet another call for brand new elections. Nobody. Totally dead silent. Not a single person is even expressing public interest in being on the openSUSE board. Now, what does this mean for openSUSE as a project and openSUSE Linux? I don't know. Maybe it means more corporate control. Maybe SUSE as a company will gobble what's little is left of the community part of openSUSE back up and make it more corporate because no one's willing to run it. I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen, but it ain't going to be good. It ain't a positive thing. Thank you to all the Lunduke Journal subscribers, by the way. Go to lunduke.com, click on all the links, watch, listen, read, interact with me wherever you feel like it's all up there. And if you want to support the Lunduke Journal, there's lots of options. I personally recommend supporting the Lunduke Journal through locals. It's a great community. It's a great censorship resistant sort of site, and I highly recommend it for anyone who wants to support the Lunduke Journal. But you can also use Substack and Patreon, or you can support me through Itch, which is kind of a fun way to go because you can download all of the shows that I produce as DRM-free MP4s. That's just a ton of fun. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, nerds and nerdettes across the inner tubes, I do declare end broadcast.